has slammed into a wall, and no amount of crocodile leather or PR polish will be able to fix this mess. Doillon, Jane Birkin's daughter, is alleged to have set off the alarm for the entire Birkin operation, and the timing couldn't be worse. Hermes reportedly went into full-blown tailspin the moment her legal team took over. The word bankruptcy isn't just a whispered rumor anymore. It's beginning to feel like the next press release, and I'm not surprised.
These are pieces of artwork. These artisans train years and years to make one of these bags.
Fabrice is doing the last stitching on a Kelly bag. A Kelly takes around 13 hours to be made, depending on the materials that we make it. Our artisans, they need to do 4 years of training to be able to manufacture a Kelly bag.
If your Hermes says, made in China, does it feel cheaper? No, that's no quality issue. It's luxury brand washing.
Hermes, you guys, it's time to show off your factories. No, I don't want to wait to go on YouTube and watch a beautiful documentary on show them off right here on TikTok. Let the world see. Okay, get like China. You gotta be ghetto about it. Just let people know.
Hermes spent decades creating this perfect little fantasy world of waitlists, whispered invitations, and elite exclusivity, all wrapped in the borrowed charm of a woman. Not to mention that Jane Birkin didn't receive royalties. Instead, her name became a status symbol for people who most likely never even saw her movies or heard her music. Meanwhile, the company laughed its way to the bank by charging $30,000 for a bag that cost less than $2,000 to make.
Birkin bag at Hermes boutique will cost you 38,000 USD. But what is the real cost out of the factory? Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you, step by step. First thing first, Hermes only use the leathers from the 3 top-level suppliers. One is called Muti from Italy. And the second is Weinheim from Germany. And the third is Haas from France. One piece of Togo leather, the same leather as this one, will cost 450 USD. And one piece of the leather is only enough to make one Birkin, okay? The thread. And of course, for Hermes Birkin, the thread is also the best top level. It's called Fil al Chinois from France. This is actually the Rolls Royce in thread. For each bag, the cost is 25 USD. And then the hardware. See, this hardware is called 316 hardware. It's also known as the ocean stainless steel because it can withstand the erosion of seawater. It's the best stainless steel. For one piece of bag, the hardware will cost 150 USD. The edge oil. This edge oil is imported from Italy. It's called heat seal edge oil. For each bag, it will cost 50 USD. The interior lining, it used lambskin imported from France. For each bag, the cost will be 100 USD. And also inside, there is a zipper from Riri brand. And the zipper for one bag is 10 USD.
Lou didn't simply sue a brand. She changed the balance of power. All the while, you pretended that it was about legacy and craftsmanship. But the bill is due because when you built your empire on a borrowed name and you forget to treat that name with care, eventually the family takes it back.
Had a lot of requests, do Hermes next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall.
In Italy, made in China. Or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way. I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
Hermes may still be in charge of the stores, the inventory, and the public relations, but Lou Doillon controls the soul of the Birkin. If she shuts it down, then yes, the Emperor's Kelly green cloak was polyester all along. Just picture the silence in that room as Hermes executives, just off their morning espresso, likely anticipated another day of product meetings and influencer strategy calls. But Lou Doillon drops a bomb. Not a speech, not a negotiation, just one page, one order. Shut down Birkin production or face legal action.
Had a lot of requests, do Hermes next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall.
In Italy, made in China. Or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way. I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
It requires a lot of skill to turn it and get it in the right way.
y a des bouchées, des bacs plus 4, 5, 6, voilà, hein.
It was a demand, not a request, and it was supported by the weight of all the betrayals her mother's name had carried for decades. There were no softened edges or equivocal words.
I need you people to wake up and creep.
You mean to tell me you believe that this man is making your Birkins in China? If he's a Birkin artisan, then I'm an astronaut.
It's made in China. I can get that for $12.
Go outside and touch grass. Some of you guys feel like this is your moment to shine and you can finally stick it to people that buy love.
That moment not only stopped the presses, but it rocked the brand's foundation as a whole. I'm talking about executives calling hush-tongued emergency meetings, executives telling leather artisans to stop working, and executives watching as her mother's legacy was sold to the highest bidder, while the truth about manufacturing practices remained hidden under layers of luxury marketing, and good let them sweat. Hermes turned Jane Birkin into a brand mascot without ever treating her with the respect she deserved, slapping her name on expensive handbags, flaunted exclusivity like it was morality, and quietly outsourced the labor to factories a world away from the Parisian atolls they loved to show off. Lou saw the hypocrisy, she lived the disconnect, and she didn't just call them out. She ripped the whole curtain down. This wasn't just a legal threat, it was an inheritance reclaimed, a daughter telling the world that her mother was more than just a silhouette on a bag. And for Hermes, this wasn't just a PR nightmare, it was the moment they're untouchable. Myth got hit with a reality check no amount of spin could undo, because when the name on your best-selling product tells you to stop, you stop, or you fall hard. Before Lou Doillon ever stepped into the spotlight, the cracks in Hermes' facade were already beginning to show. And TikTok handed the world a crowbar. That infamous video didn't just expose a Chinese factory pumping out Birkins for a fraction of their price, it revealed the entire house of cards Hermes had been building for decades. A calm, almost smug factory worker walked viewers through the cost breakdown: materials, minimal labor, cheap, total cost about $1,400. That's the same bag being sold to celebrities and collectors for close to 40 grand, paraded around as the pinnacle of European luxury. There was no dramatic background music, no flashing lights, just a phone camera and brutal honesty. And that was all it took. Consumers saw it. Experts confirmed it. Suddenly the phrase "made in France" wasn't just questionable, it was laughable. This wasn't about counterfeits flooding the market, it was about the real thing being made somewhere. Hermes swore it wasn't. The scandal wasn't just about the price tag, it was about the betrayal of trust, the illusion of craftsmanship, and the calculated deceit that made people believe they were buying something rare and sacred. Dune's legal team didn't even need to dig for evidence. The internet handed them a gold mine. They immediately called it what it was: heritage fraud. And they were right, because when your brand sells identity and you're caught faking the origin of that identity, it doesn't just break a contract, it shatters your credibility. In France, the same master craftsman Hermes used as marketing props for years saw the writing on the wall. Some packed their tools and walked out, others began leaking internal conversations and production details to journalists, proving the label's storybook fantasy had been edited in places they never agreed to. This wasn't about outsourcing to keep up with demand, it was about covering up a supply chain they never wanted consumers to see. Hermes pushed the idea that every Birkin was birthed in a quaint French atelier stitched by a master craftsperson with years of training. But when the lights turned on, that romantic vision turned out to be a marketing gimmick, an expensive one that's now collapsing under the weight of its own spin. And the worst part, it didn't have to be this way, but greed doesn't care about legacy, it only cares about volume, and volume, when unchecked, has consequences. The money never likes attention. Luxury brands, especially ones like Hermes, thrive in secrecy. Their entire value depends on the illusion of effortless wealth, clean books, and an unshakable foundation. But all of that quiet vanished the moment these lawsuits started stacking. You can't pretend everything's fine when you're being dragged into legal battles on 2 continents. And Hermes isn't just being sued. For one thing, they're being accused of manipulating buyers, faking exclusivity, and rigging access to their most coveted product. That antitrust lawsuit from the US didn't just resurface, it came back louder, meaner, and with a fresh wave of consumer anger. Plaintiffs allege Hermes forced buyers to purchase thousands of dollars and other goods just to be allowed to buy a Birkin. And this wasn't a one-off experience, this was policy quietly enforced through backroom deals and whispered rules. These weren't loyal customers, they were being played in a luxury casino where Hermes always won. Now those customers want their chips back, and they brought lawyers at the exact same time. Hermes heir Nicholas Peck found himself in a separate legal nightmare. A billion-dollar lawsuit accusing him of reneging on a share transfer deal has surfaced, and it's throwing the entire financial stability of the company into question. The fact that multiple legal fronts are erupting at once isn't a coincidence. It's a sign that control is slipping. Suppliers who were once happy to work with Hermes on trust alone are now demanding full payment upfront. That is not the behavior of a brand with a healthy cash flow. That's the financial world smelling panic. And when analysts start tiptoeing around the term bankruptcy, you know internal forecasts aren't painting a pretty picture. No brand wants that word in the air, because once it's there, investors get cold feet, partners go silent, and consumers turn cautious. What's astonishing is how fast the illusion cracked. Hermes had been selling scarcity of bags, scarcity of access, scarcity of information, but all it took was one person, armed with legacy and truth, to pause production, and suddenly that scarcity stopped working in their favor. The whole structure depends on the idea that the Birkin is worth waiting for, but if production is frozen and lawsuits are stacking and the company looks unstable, then the bag becomes worthless, not because it changed, but because the story behind it no longer holds up. That's the danger of building value on myth. When the myth breaks, everything it touched becomes suspect. And right now, Hermes is in the uncomfortable position of trying to convince the world that their myth is still intact, even as the financials say otherwise. The courtroom turned into a minefield, and Hermes walked straight into it wearing blindfolds. A significant ruling from the Paris Judicial Court tightened intellectual property protections and put luxury brands on notice. Suddenly, Hermes had to prove the authenticity of every stitch, seam, and so-called French-made detail that they had been showing off for decades. This alone would have shaken most brands, but Hermes didn't have time to recover before Lou Diane's team moved in with precision. They filed for a full-scale external audit, demanding a thorough examination of every foreign factory involved in the production of Birkin, and just to tighten the screws, they requested an asset freeze, not a partial or partial freeze, which would have restricted assets, frozen accounts, and placed a legal stranglehold on the brand's operations. The style blackout top stylist then sent a no Birkin memo into every group chat, essentially demanding that everyone open every drawer, flip every cushion, and demonstrate that nothing shady was hiding underneath. Let's face it, there is definitely something shady hiding underneath. You don't file that kind of request unless you know where the bodies are buried. Cardi B. Drake. The resale applications melted as merchants panicked and posted bags at fire sale prices, shocking everyone who had previously flexed orange boxes and switched to low or Gaillard paparazzi. Fashion changes quickly as reputations deteriorate, and I applaud if influencers contributed to the rise in Birkin worship, since they can also contribute to its decline. That's poetic balance. According to reports, the CEO warned executives that the cash runway was perilously short. Panic is probably the new office scent at 24. Security guards now stand outside sample rooms to ban phones as Rue Faubourg craftsmen demand profit sharing and transparency on sourcing. One even threatened to live broadcast a French bag being put together in Asia. Here is what bankruptcy would entail if a company known for its elegant silk scarves really locked doors to prevent secrets from leaking onto Instagram. Waitlists deleted, deposits stalled in legal limbo, and lifetime croc bag spa services ignore it. While rival brands are already preparing price increases to attract Hermes's refugees, France, which depends on luxe pride, may witness the collapse of its golden child and the destruction of its reputation. In my opinion, Hermes chased hyper-growth, padded margins with mystery factories, and believed the Birkin myth was unbreakable. However, Lou Diane just demonstrated that it was not. So there it is, an icon built on exclusivity is eating its own legend while the AIS flips the table. I'm not lamenting the fact that luxury worship has devolved into a cult, and cults disintegrate once light hits the altar. What other heritage brands are bluffing to? Let's see this empire collapse.